Hola, ¿cómo están, my compañeros? Right here I have a paper written in 2008. Interesting enough, it's from Dr. Ralph S. Barrick himself over at Chapel Hill, North Carolina. If you look into it, you can see that Wuhan Laboratory had a partnership with Chapel Hill. They did a lot of experimentation. The thing that I'm trying to point out right here is right in the middle of the screen. It says, we show that the COVID hemagglutinin-esterase HE arose from an Influenza C like hemagglutinin-esterase fusion protein. That is saying that they believe that coronavirus arose from Influenza C. You say, what is Influenza C? I've never heard of Influenza C. A little quick rundown on Influenza C. Influenza C viruses are somewhat different. The enveloped virons have hexagonal structures on the surface and form cord-like structures as they bud from the cells. Like the Influenza A and B viruses, the core of Influenza C virus consists of ribonucleoproteins made up of viral RNA and four proteins. The M1 protein lies just below the membrane. As in Influenza A and B virons, a minor viral envelope protein is CM2, which functions as an ion channel. The major Influenza C virus envelope glycoprotein is called hemagglutinin-esterase fusion because it has the function of both HA and the NA. HA and NA are both on Influenza A and B. Therefore, the influenza viron contains 7 RNA segments. It goes on to say nearly all adults have been infected with Influenza C viruses, which cause mild upper respiratory tract illnesses. And so what we found right now, I am stating that coronavirus is a descendant of Influenza C, and part of Influenza C, one of the major components of Influenza C is this glycoprotein, hemagglutinin-esterase fusion. So we say, what is this hemagglutinin-esterase fusion? Here we are. Hemagglutinin-esterase. So hemagglutinin-esterase is a glycoprotein that certain enveloped viruses possess and use as an invading mechanism. HE helps the attachment and destruction of sialic acid receptors that are found on the host cell's surface. Viruses that possess HEs include Influenza C virus, torovirus, and coronavirus. It goes on to say, but not SARS-like coronavirus. So they're trying to separate SARS-like coronavirus from other coronavirus, even though all coronavirus arose from the same ancestor. HE is a dimer transmembrane protein consisting of 2 monomers. Each monomer is made of 3 domains. The 3 domains are membrane, fusion esterase, and receptor binding. So within hemagglutinin-esterase are 3 domains, 2 monomers, and each monomer is made of 3 domains. It is a bit difficult and complicated to understand. The point I'm trying to get at very quickly is that Influenza C virus is not ever spoken about. Influenza C virus is the descendant, or is the progenitor, or is the earlier relative of coronavirus, and that's according to Dr. Barrick himself. And so it says right here, viruses that possess HE, hemagglutinin-esterase, include Influenza C virus, torovirus, and coronaviruses, but not SARS-like coronavirus. And I go on to postulate that according to many sites, they are saying that this SARS-CoV-2 does have hemagglutinin-esterase very clearly, you can see, as a component of its makeup, hemagglutinin-esterase dimer. Meaning, this is what that says to me. That says hemagglutinin-esterase was on Influenza C, and Dr. Barrick himself said coronavirus is a descendant of Influenza C. And so the fact that hemagglutinin-esterase is on SARS-CoV-2 is trying to be hidden, and I do not know why would Wikipedia say that no SARS virus has hemagglutinin-esterase dimers. That's what it says. No SARS-like virus has hemagglutinin-esterase dimers. Viruses that possess hemagglutinin-esterase include Influenza C viruses, toroviruses, and coronaviruses, but not SARS-like coronaviruses. And so, I feel as if they're trying to be disingenuous about the lineage of coronavirus. It is very closely equated, I believe, to influenza. I believe that is why they do not want us to recognize hemagglutinin-esterase to be a component of Influenza C, and now hemagglutinin-esterase is a component of SARS-CoV-2. One would believe that we might have cross immunities, or we could have the test that tests for influenza and would be able to pop hot for influenza, and we call it COVID-19. The weirdest thing is that they say that hemagglutinin-esterase severe acute respiratory syndrome related to coronavirus. This is the wiki, not for SARS-CoV-2. This identifies SARS as a beta coronavirus. Beta coronavirus is one of 4 genres of coronavirus. So it says SARS is from a beta coronavirus. It says SARS comes from one of the 4 coronaviruses, and then you have Dr. Barrick himself It's interesting. This paper right here is one of the most important ones. This Proceedings of National Academy of Science. It was written in 2008 by the perpetrators and the makers of SARS-CoV-2, in my humble opinion. And he's talking all about how structures of coronavirus, hemagglutinin-esterase, offers insight in corona and influenza evolution, influenza virus evolution. See, I think that the correlation between corona and influenza via the hemagglutinin-esterase linkage, I think that is exactly what they are trying to keep from the public. They do not want the public to understand the fact that Influenza C is, it's funny because it says in the wiki, if you go on, okay, so I'll check out Wikipedia for Influenza C. And you say, Influenza C viruses are known to infect humans and pigs. Flu due to type C species is rare compared to type B or type A. And so I come to an individual who says that he studied, I know influenza B and C viruses quite well. I did my PhD research on them. I showed that influenza C virus genome consists of 7 RNA segments and demonstrated the reassortment among different influenza C virus strains. And then, so this individual obviously knows what he's speaking about. He says, nearly all adults have been infected with influenza C virus, which causes mild respiratory tract infection. Lower respiratory tract complications are rare. There is no vaccine against influenza C. Influenza C, this paragraph right here, influenza C viruses are somewhat different. And I go to look at, okay, how are they different? And guess what? It's scrubbed off the internet. So I'm reading, and I'm seeing at the bottom it says the major influenza C virus envelope glycoprotein is called hemagglutinin-esterase fusion. Hemagglutinin-esterase fusion. HEF. Hemagglutinin-esterase fusion. What do we have right here? So one of the main components of influenza C is hemagglutinin-esterase fusion. Hemagglutinin-esterase, I mean to say, is the main component of influenza C coronavirus. But this Wikipedia says, but not SARS-like coronavirus. SARS-like coronavirus doesn't have hemagglutinin-esterase. But how do they explain the simple idea, or the simple fact that these supposedly scholarly websites, probably in the know and probably accurate, are telling me that hemagglutinin-esterase dimers, which includes fusion, which includes 2 monomers that have 3 domains. So hemagglutinin-esterase dimer encompasses hemagglutinin-esterase fusion. HE is the umbrella term for HEF. And Wikipedia just said that Wikipedia just denied the linkage between Influenza C and coronavirus. And if influenza it's related to influenza, then false positives for influenza tests happen all the time. This is a different website with the same picture, the same exact picture. And it says hemagglutinin-esterase dimers. Okay, that's part of the COVID-19 structural makeup. That's SARS. That's SARS. That's SARS. So okay, let me check out what hemagglutinin-esterase is. Oh, hemagglutinin-esterase, that's connected to influenza C. Oh, but it's not on SARS-like coronavirus. That's a lie. This is a lie, and I would like somebody to address it. And I hope that I've been able to explain it with some sort of cogency.